Welcome to Literally Books, the podcast. My name is Lindsay,
My name is Magda.
and we just had to come back after our Onyx Storm Quest Squad week to give it some final thoughts.
Yeah, I think we've had a few days to kind of mellow over it and think a little bit about what happened because I think we were just pretty much live reacting as how we were doing things, and we figured we would just kind of level set and see what our thoughts are a few days after we read the book.
Things are simmering in the background for me that just like big and small, stuck in my craw that I can't stop thinking about.
Yeah, I am gonna stick with my ranking that Onyx Storm is number 2 in the series. Like I have Fourth Wing first, Onyx Storm 2, and then Iron Flame as third. But I've been thinking about this book so much over the past few days that it's just slowly crawling up a little bit more at the top. Still not enough to tap Fourth Wing, but it's still
Fourth
getting
Wing
there
is
for me.
just it's unparalleled. I don't know. I'm so stuck. I enjoyed this book. I loved that it was plot focused.
hmm
I have so many thoughts, but I want to start with what's sticking in your craw. What do you want to talk about first?
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. I don't hate Xaden, y'all. I've been hearing, I read all the comments. I promise y'all, I do not hate Xaden. And I think Lindsay and you have talked about it offline. I think the main issue that I have, I just came out of reading Iron Flame, and I was just in the weird space where I was not really in love with the relationship between Violet and Xaden. And I think it got a little bit better in this book. And I think it was because they got a lot of development on each of their side. And I've been thinking about this a lot, especially on the last few chapters from Xaden's point of view, and then some of his last chapters. He did grow quite a bit as a character. Some of the things that I think about is, for instance, towards the end, he kind of had pretty much accepted that he was going to be turning venom and he needed to start putting together a contingency plan. That to me is maturity, and he's growing and he's accepting his fate. I think he was still trying to put Violet in danger towards the beginning, maybe potentially thinking that there was no a potential cure or something. And they were doing a couple of things that were a little bit risky. Like for instance, when he got into the fight with Garrick, and I know it was with Riddick or with Garrick. No, it was with Riddick.
No, it's
In the
Riddick. Yeah.
with Riddick in the triumvirate and stuff like that. And I think towards the end, we kind of start seeing Xaden just like, I think something's gonna happen, and I'm gonna have to make the decision that I'm gonna have to leave because I'm putting people in danger. I also really love that I know that he caused a whole lot of damage towards the end when he set up all of his shadows, but he did that out of his love for Sigil. Sigil was hurt, and that's why he like did this massive shadow explosion in chapter 65 because he was so worried about her because he thought that Berwin was gonna go ahead and kill Sigil like they did Panchik's dragon, and I think he did all of that out of love for her, for Sigil, not for Violet, and I really appreciated that because I think Lindsay, you and I talked about a conversation that Llewellyn had with Violet, where Llewellyn told Violet, both of you are very selfish and you're not thinking of the greater good of the continent. You're not thinking about the other situations that are ongoing. And worst comes to worst, you're going to put each other first. This was the first case that I see Xaden putting Sigil first, putting the continent first, putting the entire good by taking himself out of the equation. That's just my take. And I'm coming to appreciate that a little bit more now after I had a little bit more time to think about the last few chapters of the book.
I think this is one of the central questions of this book. One of the central themes too is can do the means justify the ends, right? Like, is that the phrase? Do the ends justify the means? Whatever order that comes in.
No,
It
that
seems
means
like it
just
should go the first way.
no.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, the point is like, can you do the wrong thing for the right reasons, and is that okay? And I think I also struggle with you. Like, is he doing, because he's saving Sigil, but then where does he leave her afterwards? We already know how distressing it is for a dragon to lose their rider, and she's losing him in the most painful way, which is that he's living but he's like giving up his soul. And I think this is where we struggle with Xaden, because it's selfless but in the most selfish way that you can be selfish, which is you're not letting people make choices for themselves about their emotional well-being. He's making them for them. He does it with Bodhi by saying you have to be Duke, whether he wants to or not. He does it with Violet on so many occasions where he says like, I'm going to distance myself from you, or I'm going to be really close with you. But he doesn't really give her the choice. He does the same thing with Sorrengail. And I think this is like where the heart of your upset comes from, is like, we love him. We love that. But it's reckless. It's irresponsible, and it's a little in its own way like very selfish, because he assumes that they're not capable of making decisions for themselves when it comes to him. So
Yeah, it is. That's a duality to this, right? And there's something too, and I think somebody posted this in our comments, that there's a pretty strong chance that Sigel and Terrence's bond has been broken. Just think about, if that's the case, how much pain that must have cost Sigel and Terran to do that. And what's justifying this theory is because I believe Violet asked Kandarna at the end of chapter 66, why is Terran resting? He was totally fine when I last saw him. Like, I don't understand why. And we think that potentially is that the bond has been broken between Sigel and Terran, so Xaden can leave and do his thing, and Sigel and Terran don't have to be communicating with each other.
I don't know if I buy that. I mean, I think it's a good theory. It may be, but I think that that's over indexing to like the power that humans have over dragons. And we know like historically that's not the case. Like they're still mated. There's a bond there beyond the writers. But I don't know. I'm not against it. I don't agree. But I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think realistically, Sorrengail will break her bond with Xaden before she breaks her bond with Terran. But I could be wrong.
So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, so just to clear things up, I don't hate Xaden. I do think potentially Violet and Xaden are gonna end up together. They're already married, so they are gonna end up together. They both, especially Xaden, does deserve a happily ever after because he's been through a very shitty life. So I get that. But we'll see what kind of character development we see with him as a Venom. Like, I'm really curious about that. So we'll see. There is one more thing that I think we did get confirmation potentially that Bodhi was the new brother. Katie in her comments actually called it out, that there is a sentence when they're in the middle of fighting, and she said, Bodhi's on his hands and knees across the town square retching. And that potentially is mean that he is grabbing power from the ground in order to potentially get more power and fight it. So
that's interesting. I like the idea. And I think it makes sense because Rebecca has said, she said something in an interview recently about like, oh, well, Bodhi would do this. They were talking about what they would order at a bar. And she was like, oh, Xaden would order a beer and Bodhi would order a beer because Bodhi's going to do whatever Xaden does. And I think that's like a little nod to saying it makes sense that he would follow in his footsteps.
Yeah. So, which kind of makes sense now. And so if Bodhi is for sure a Venom, makes sense why the marriage had to happen, because we don't want to give Risha and Terrander to the king. So the only person that we trust is Violet. I'm still not happy about the marriage of convenience type of thing for power. It's not ideal. I don't want that for them as a true romantic. But I get that, to your point, Lindsay, is a means to an end. And it's the only way to truly keep Terrander safe is to give it to Violet.
So my last couple of thoughts from my side. One, we didn't really talk about this, but something that I really loved in this book, and I think where Rebecca shines in her writing, is the relationships with Violet and her parents. Like I said, one of the reasons that I think Iron Flame is my second favorite is because of the insight that we get into Lilith's relationship with her children. And we see a little bit more of that here when she talks about when Asher takes Violet to dedicate her to the Temple of Dune without asking. And she says, like, I'll never forgive him for this. And obviously, like when she, gives up her life for her kids and lets Violet go. I mean, she does all sorts of things. But like, I think, how I feel about this theme, that parents are people and like the ways in which they fuck up. And we see that a lot with Lilith in the last book. But I really like that we're seeing that with Asher, Violet's dad, in this book. We see that he makes decisions that are not in Violet's best interest. And I think in previous books, he's been held up very much on this pedestal. He is the perfect parent. He's the scribe parent. He did everything for Violet. He was more loving, more affectionate. And I liked, one, that it's a flip of kind of gender norms between maternal and paternal relationships, where the maternal character is the bit colder character, the one that has to be strong for the family, the protector. I think that's kind of a cool thing that she does that I hadn't really thought about. And then secondarily, and like I like the paternal figure as the emotional one, I also like that it's like they're both complicated human beings and they've both made big mistakes and big strides with their kids in different ways.
Tell me, what, I guess I don't remember, like what makes you say that he made a big mistake with Viola's judgment?
Oh, because he dedicates her to the Temple of Doom without asking Lilith and without
Mm.
considering, like, it's been outlawed because I think essentially it like alters the course of that child's life without their decision, you know? Like they're dedicating them to a temple without the child having any choice. Like that's what it says in one of the precursors. That's why it's outlawed. And so, like, we hate Lilith for conscripting Violet into the Riders Quadrant. We should hate Asher for the same reasons, for, you know, attempting to dedicate her without talking to her mom. That's crazy. It's kidnapping.
You know, I didn't even catch that dedication was outlawed. Was that in one of the scripts? I totally missed that. Oh
It was
my
in the prescripts.
gosh.
It's been outlawed for like 200 years or something like that.
Oh my
Hmm.
gosh, Linz, I totally missed that. I totally missed that, and I cannot believe it. So you're actually blowing
There's
my mind right
so
now.
many things. We're probably gonna have to do this like 12 more times because there's little things that I keep going back and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even catch this.
It's crazy. Okay. Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. And like I didn't catch about like how we're flipping on its head like the motherly attentions versus like the fatherly ones. So that is a really great point.
Rebecca does some cool things sometimes. She really
Mm-hmm.
does. Like she's a thinker, this one. The
Yeah.
very last thing I have to say about this is I reread a portion of the book because I was trying to remember what was going on with the siphon scene. Like you had mentioned something that Sloane had said where it was like, oh, no one person should have this much power. And I had not noticed that. So I went back and read that scene. And there was something else I picked up on that scene that I had like intuited at the time, but I didn't really notice, which is that Dain and Sloane 1000% are going to get together. Like something may happen between them and maybe it doesn't work out but I think it's an interesting pairing knowing that Dane's, you know, sort of the impetus for Liam dying because he didn't intervene. I think it like adds an interesting complication to their relationship. And she says to him at one point, I'm going to hurt you before she siphons him. And he says, God's don't I know it. And you're like, oh, what does that mean? like,
A
and then he
double
says, like,
meaning.
yes, he says, God's don't I know it, but I know you won't kill me. And I'm like, but how do you know? There's something there. And I feel like it's a good mirror to Xaden and Violet's relationship during Violet's first year, where it's like this weird sort of like, you're going to be the death of me kind of attitude.
Great catch. I did not catch the double entendre on it. I only caught the one about like nobody should have this much power. And I'm like, what kind of other power does Zane have that we don't know about?
We need
Okay,
to read this book
great
12 more
catch.
times
I think so. I
because,
agree.
like,
I agree.
yeah.
There was something else that kind of caught my eye too as I was kind of rereading some of the chapters. And this is another one when Xaden has turned and he's trying to kill the sage, but he couldn't. And he says something along the lines, I'd kill him if I could. I wonder how many initiates feel the same about their sage. At least one that I know of. Who is this one? Could it be
Great
Naolin?
question.
Could it be Brennan's partner here? Like, what does that mean? And we don't know who it is, but I'm pretty sure it's Naolin. Naolin.
No,
I
of
don't know
course
how
it's
to
Naolin
pronounce. Yeah.
because like it's I mean Rebecca all but confirmed that. Someone was like, we're Naolin and Brennan lovers. It's like, duh, y'all. Like, and she says, like, well, you don't like, you know, kill yourself for someone that you don't have feelings for. It's like, of course they're fucking lovers. What do you
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
pretty obvious. I think that is such a good catch, and I completely missed that.
Yeah. So at least one that I know of. Some more to come on that.
Girl.
Yeah. And then there's one more thing. And this is my saddest theory that it makes me really sad that I'm thinking about this. And it's I'm 90% sure Aaric is gonna die.
I think
So
so too. I know exactly what you're about to say right now because I reread this too, and I was like, motherfucker, go ahead.
so I have two ideas that are going to be supporting this. So the first one is when Aaric is arguing the triumvirate, he says something along the lines of, I will fight in this war, most likely die, and do so knowing that I protected others. So we know that he's a precog, so he's probably seen it that he's going to be dying. My second piece of evidence for this is that there was a recent interview with Rebecca Yarros where she said, they asked her, like, did you know that Liam was going to be dying? And she's like, absolutely, I did. Because Liam is a perfect character and there's no character growth for him. So I knew he had to die. Please tell me, Aaric is a perfect fucking character. He's going to fucking die.
I'm unwell.
Yeah,
I'm
me too.
unwell. I mean, I think it makes sense. I like hope she saves it until the last book because I want to know more about how precognition works. Like there have
Same.
to be rules around it where things can change. Otherwise, like that would be really boring and you would be like, "Yep, book over. He already knows what's going to happen."
Yep.
But I think it makes so much sense.
And I am
Oh
really
gosh.
sad. Riddick and fucking Aaric are my two favorite characters. I mean, the scene where we thought Riddick was hurt with the knife, but it also went through
Oh,
his
I know.
shirt. I almost died with that scene, and we forgot to talk about that. I was not okay. I'm like, please don't. And I think, yeah, I'm just not okay, and she's just gonna break my heart. I know
I
this.
mean, she even got me, like, I know you said you felt less strongly about this, but like the scene with Imogen and Quinn, like, I think, especially like female friendships, but also friendship relationships that are really strong, those people that are just there for you without romantic love being entwined in that, who are just like your found family, those scenes wreck me. It's why I'm so wrecked with Liam. The Quinn stuff where like Imogen is recounting when they first met each other and how she was like the only person she's ever loved. And you're just like, this is like an orphan who's like found her family and now she's freaking alone again. It's brutal. I can't handle it.
Yeah, I think Rebecca does a really good job at writing those gut wrenching scenes because I have cried in every single one of her books, one way or another.
Same.
So Liam on the first one, Liam again on the second one when he
I
appeared.
know. Liam,
Lily,
gosh
yeah.
damn you.
Liam is, oh my gosh. Lilith Seth, I cried quite a bit. And then Andarna leaving in book 3. Oh my God, I still cannot get her. Like, that was brutal. She is the queen of making sure that we cried in these books. And I'm not ready for book 4 and book 5.
I'm not ready. Okay.
um,
Well, thank you.
yeah, no, thank you for giving us the space to like do another quick catch up here. We're probably gonna have to do another one like 8 months from
1000%.
now or something, just kind of following up. Um,
But you
just
know what, Magda? Take my finger. Hold my finger because we're going to hold space. We're going
there.
to hold space for this difficult moment that we've had. I've seen it on the internet. It's happening.
It's intense. Just one quick plug before we kind of wrap up here. I know that we've had quite a bit of new subscribers. We normally post new episodes every Wednesday, so be on the lookout for that. It's all book related content. You're not want to miss it. And thank you all for everybody that has found us through the Onyx Storm journey. It has been so fun. We do read all of the comments. Thank you, everybody that's been so supportive or is arguing with us about the theories. We love it. We love a good back and forth trying to understand what's happening. So keep it coming. And I think that's it. Thank you for listening to Literally Books, the podcast.
Where we say what we read.
And we mean what we say. Bye.